We should never allow the government to decide what is acceptable speech and what is unacceptable speech. We should penalize behaviors, not opinions, and not speech. If you start trying to regulate speech, you start trying to regulate thoughts, you start trying to regulate beliefs rather than behaviors, there's no way that you're not going to abridge the constitutional rights of millions of Americans.
This program today, ladies and gentlemen, for those watching, is a memorial to an individual who most people feel is somebody who should be forgotten by society. Her name is Nasim Aghdam, and I'm doing this to say to those public who watch the videos throughout YouTube itself that this woman reacted because of how YouTube was treating her. It wasn't about her psychological problem, whatever it was. It's primarily this. When YouTube is showing the public over and over again that our freedoms and our rights of free expression are being restricted, they're being subjugated by a attitude of communism, which means you and what you say is now up to our government to say whether you can or not. This is why it happened. It is people retaliating against YouTube because they are restricting our freedoms of speech, and it's a constitutional right. It's under the Bill of Rights. And YouTube, and their attitude about this subject is this. They run the program, they run the service, so therefore they can dictate what they will allow and what they won't. That is not a free society. It may be them saying that they think this way or they think that way, but if you are in a free society, it is not up to that individual company to say what they will permit and not permit for people to say on their service. It's about them taking under consideration something that shows ongoing hate or violence in their videos. And nothing, as far as I saw from her webpage, showed any intent to cause hate or violence. And yet, YouTube retaliated against her every time and said, this is an age-restricted video, but yet when you saw it, you said, where is the content they're saying represents a hate or an incitement of hate? And that's what they're even doing to my channel, too. They're telling people, oh, this is violent content, and it shows a little boy who was being attacked or hurt in Aleppo, and they've put more than one age restriction on my videos to say that very thing, that a child who shows that they are being injured is considered too graphic to be shown. But yet they showed it all over the network news, all over the entire world. And now YouTube is kind of like saying, we adhere to what Obama kept saying as the dictator of our country, that you will comply with what we tell you to because he wanted it that way when he was president. And now we're going to continue that philosophy, even though he isn't actually president right now. He is very much still doing his plans of global domination, global control of our world. And he is doing it over and over again, really outside the scope of what the television news is even showing. Once in a while you might see them talking about what Obama says in certain places he goes. And it's like when he says these things, people are practically falling down on their faces in front of Obama like, oh, great Obama, oh, great Messiah, whatever you say, tell us. And if that's not the Antichrist, I don't know what is. But again, to get back to Nasim's videos, this is a reflection, folks, of one thing. They themselves, YouTube, is creating the incitement. They are inciting the very people who are posting videos on their channel to create the hatred and the violence that they themselves are saying, we will not tolerate this on our channel. In other words, it isn't people watching the videos who are going out and committing these kinds of acts. They are subverting and subjugating people to say, you can't say this because we're not going to let you say this on our channel. And there's no evidence that she did say anything or show anything that was considered to be age restricted. And eventually, the long-term issue of it was that they stopped paying her for her channels. She was making money for YouTube, and then all of a sudden they said, well, we're not going to let you do that anymore because we find that what you're doing and what you're saying, we don't appreciate or we don't approve of it. And that's socialism. That's communism for them to tell her, we will allow you to say this, but we won't allow you to say that. And it has nothing to do with her violating any specific issue of their so-called code of ethics, their code of conduct, which is a sham because they can use it against people anytime they want to, whether or not it's factual or not. And when they do these kinds of restrictions, ladies and gentlemen, they do not tell you what it was in your video that was considered derogatory, flamboyantly insightful. They just tell you it is, therefore we had to remove it. And that is the most vaguest, vain attitude to take about somebody, that you don't follow their rules because they don't like what you're saying. It isn't about you creating hate or violence. It's because they don't like it as far as what they think you should be saying. It is all tied directly to Obama himself, who kept saying to people over and over again, this is how it's going to be. His wife said it over and over again. You're gonna live the way we're telling you to. You're not going to eat that anymore. You're not going to believe this anymore. You're not going to, and that's total submission towards them telling you what you can do and what you can't do. That's communism. That's socialism. And the United States fought against that. Maybe not even 50 years ago. In the 1960s, communism, the Cold War was an ongoing thing all over the world. The Iron Curtain was up, everything. And the United States was saying to these countries like Russia, to Cuba, to these other countries, we don't like that philosophy. We don't accept that philosophy because we believe in free enterprise. We believe in free thought, free actions. And now the attitude is totally the opposite. Now the United States government is saying, we do it here and we do accept the philosophy that drug addiction helps people. Taking marijuana helps people. We are totally in disrespect and we do not tolerate individual thoughts, beliefs. Religion is under attack even if it's not obvious. The fact they go after Christians who in themselves do not commit violence. We do not commit hate towards other groups. On the contrary, Jesus said in the Bible that Christians are to practice love for one another, not hate, not violence. Now you take the flip side of that. What do Muslims believe? Well, 9/11 is a perfect example. And then they say, well, no, that's radicalism. That's in their Quran, folks. You cannot say that a religion can only have certain policy rules because, oh, well, they don't all believe the same thing. In my book, if you are a person who follows a religion, you follow the whole book. You don't follow just parts of it. And it's in their Quran. And yes, this woman, Nasim, was a Muslim. In itself, that's kind of shocking to me that they would put these kinds of restrictions on her because she believes in Islam, and yet they aren't supposed to take any kind of action or any kind of whiplash effect on people who use their services. They're not supposed to do that against women especially, but not against people who are Islam. And yet, in this case, they did. And she was to the point where I'm sure she was distraught because she thought, well, how am I going to make a living now if I don't have any money coming in? Well, I'm saying this on behalf of myself, but I post videos for one reason. I like doing it. I don't do this to make money from YouTube because as far as I'm concerned, they don't deserve money. They created YouTube to be a platform where people could freely share their thoughts, share their opinions, and over the time that the service started, they began pushing about people making the money. Monetize your videos. In other words, make us money, and then we'll benefit you with some percentage of that monies. And I didn't believe in that. I still don't believe in that. YouTube is supposed to be free. It is supposed to be totally non-objective. It's not supposed to be a platform where a socialist or a communist tells people what they will allow and what they won't allow. And that is really why I think this individual, Nasim, retaliated, because she saw how YouTube had just totally and radically changed its philosophy about what they as a service is supposed to do for people, which is offering people the chance to share how they feel without retaliation. And YouTube retaliates against people every single day. They retaliate against me. And it hurts. It hurts me personally to see how YouTube tells me a boy who's been hurt is not something that we allow people to share. If he had been a girl, and I had shown this on the channel, I guarantee you YouTube would never say anything. But because he was a small boy in Aleppo who was seriously hurt during an attack, in their minds, they say, well, first of all, you're already against us because you're not showing the gender that we expect you to show, which is a girl or a woman. Second is because he was hurt, they consider that graphic. And I say, well, folks, graphic is reality. It happened. This is not me trying to doctor up his picture and say, oh, he was hurt, but, because a lot of people did that. They tried to say in the first couple of weeks after the attacks, they showed this really graphic and really horrible looking picture. They had doctored up how Omran looked on the pictures. And over time, we finally realized what he really looked like. He had a lot of dust on his face, and yes, one part of his face was hurt seriously by some injury that he got from the concrete falling down from the ceiling. YouTube now says, oh, that's just too graphic. We can't allow that. We can't allow you to say that. We can't allow you to talk about that little boy. And I contend that if you don't remember people who suffer, then you'll forget that it even happened. And then it just keeps going on, and then people become desensitized. And that's what they've done about your freedoms and your rights. They have desensitized people so much in the way that you can say things. Now they're complacent. They're willing to conform to how YouTube sees things, that it's about them telling you what you can do, and you accept it. You agree with it. And that's communism. That's socialism. And when you say these things, people are kind of like they have this blank face on them, like, who cares if it's communism? Who cares if it's socialism? And it's like, well, I guess you don't want freedom. And those of us who grew up in this country when we did have freedom, it really does kind of upset people, because when you had something and they take it away from you, you start asking yourself, who gave them that right to change how the United States Constitution is supposed to be interpreted, of how we're supposed to be able to live in this country? Because some idiot moron like Obama tells us, oh, well, it's not the same world anymore, and we got to this and that. Not to get off the subject, but let me just bring to your attention one thing. Blacks can do things that a white person can never even think of doing. And you think, is that equality for a black to have that kind of an advantage over somebody else? Can they go out and shoot a cop as they did after Ferguson? And then when a cop shoots a black, it's like, oh, you've just committed racism because you shot a black person. The same is true of blacks who rob people and kill them. Are those people supposed to just be victims, those who the blacks shoot at and kill? Or are they supposed to be able to protect themselves and shoot back? According to the NAACP, if you're white, you're supposed to just stand there and let them blow you away. You don't have a right anymore to even protect or defend yourself. And that's why the blacks don't want people having guns. Obama kept saying that the whole time he was president. We don't need guns. The government's going to protect you. You give up your right to having firearms, and don't worry, the government's going to be there. It's going to protect you. It's going to take care of you. That's the kind of lunacy that this country has come to. That one race has more rights than others to live the way they want to. And now they're even going beyond that, and now they're dictating to people what you will say, what you can do, what you can not do, what you can speak, what you can and cannot think, what you can or cannot believe. Every video that I post has this guy commenting at the beginning that when you take those freedoms and those rights away from people, you're not only subjugating them, but you're also hindering their freedom of speech and every other kind of freedom that's in the United States Constitution. And it's not just a sheet of paper. That is supposed to represent our freedom in this country. And the socialists and the communists, and I'm specifically saying Hillary Clinton herself and Barack Obama, are communists. They are dictators, but they're socialists, and they show it every day. And they brainwash so many people in this country. That's why you have this upside-down world now called America, because they're doing it. They're doing it. They're projecting it to people every day. And high-definition television, it works because it's subjugating people's minds to accepting what Obama was saying for 8 years. And now it's like they think people who say stuff about this is just, they're just conspiracy theorists. They're this, they're that. Hillary Clinton herself said on television not too long ago, the Republicans have screwed up themselves because they've allowed a certain small percentage of people to decide who was going to be voted into office. And I wish somebody in the media would say to Hillary Clinton this: those small groups of people represent the majority of voters in America, and they're called, what she laughingly mentioned in her campaign, a basket full of deplorables. And you know what? They might be deplorables, but there was sure enough of them that they did not put you in office, Hillary Clinton. And that is what society must be able to hear one way or the other. It is not about stupidity. It is not about the subjugation of morality by a group of people who think homosexuals should have more rights to live their way than somebody who don't want to practice that way, or somebody who doesn't agree with that philosophy. And for 2,000 years, the reason society has survived, civilization has survived, is because people live the way they know they have to live. And homosexuals might have existed then, but you didn't see the kind of stupidity in those times as you do in America now. An example, Sodom and Gomorrah. These are two cities that had totally gone homosexual. And you know what happened? God destroyed both of those cities because he knew everything, every thought they were having in those two cities was nothing but pure evil. And he eradicated them. Do you think he's not going to do the same thing to America? I would say yes, he's going to definitely do that to America. Because the more people believe in the crap that Obama kept saying, the more they're going to be stupid enough to keep going on with the whole thing. Nasim Aghdam, she killed herself for one reason. She knew there was no chance she'd ever be able to express herself freely in a society which only 20, 30 years ago, this country was totally free. It was totally able to talk about what it wanted to. And now you've got a communist pig like Obama saying that's not going to be acceptable anymore. It's not going to be tolerated. It's not going to be done that way anymore. And if you don't think Obama is still in control, Look at how Donald Trump every day is condemned by the media. He's condemned by the politics, those individuals who he was voted in to get rid of, called the swamp. They have totally just scrunched every single law that was in place to protect the average American, and now they're giving those rights to the perverts, the individuals who think they're better than other people. I'm referring directly to the blacks. The blacks think that they alone are the only ones that should be given any rights, and that's it. And Nasim went in there to YouTube. They say she went in there to talk to them, and they wouldn't listen. And so what did she do? She turned the gun on them and retaliated. But when I'm not condoning or even encouraging hate. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that what happened was because of how YouTube incites hatred through their YouTube users, because she is a perfect example of how YouTube looks down on people who don't conform to what they are going to tell you what you can say and what you can't say. That's not freedom. That is not in any way a society that has free thought, free ability of individual rights to express themselves, when these companies can use the lie and the excuse that they own that company, so therefore they can dictate and tell you what you can say and what you cannot say. That is dangerous stuff, because YouTube is under the same stipulation of laws as these individuals who were sued by the homosexuals because they wouldn't serve them. Guess what? The government made them. They said, if you don't give the homosexuals that wedding cake, we're going to take your whole business away from you. And that's what YouTube is doing now. They're telling the average American citizen, what you say, we're going to tell you whether or not you can say it. What you show on your channel, we're going to tell you whether or not they can do that. That's not in any way their legal right to do that. They don't have the right to do anything except to stop the kinds of things that they're supposed to be trying to stop themselves. And in the case of Nasim herself, they failed. They proved that to the entire country, that if they're trying to stop hate and they're trying to stop the kinds of things that are in their code of ethics, they didn't follow it themselves, because they're projecting it towards you as a YouTube videographer every single day. Now they're telling you what you can say and what you cannot say. And the more they penalize people, folks, the more that what happened in Burbank or in San Bruno or whatever is going to happen again. Because the more they do this to people, the more people are going to retaliate, the more they're going to reach out, they're going to react. And if YouTube doesn't want this sort of thing to happen, they've got to stop restricting people's freedom of speech. They have to stop doing what they're doing to people, because this is what every social media outlet, every platform is supposed to be about: people being able to share how they feel without that agency or that company saying and dictating what people can and cannot do. Obama is gone. He's been in there 8 years of total tyranny. And now what is going on? Obama still controls all the media outlets. He still controls YouTube. He still controls Google, Twitter, Instagram, all these other social media outlets. He's controlling it. And all you got to do is look at it. Just look at it day by day. Look at what's happening even on the stock market. You know who controls that? Obama. The Illuminati. They're the ones doing all this stuff. The Bilderberg Group, they control the financial systems of the world. Who controls the Bilderberg Group? Barack Obama. So, the video today is simply to tell you all watching this video one thing. Nasim is just one example of probably many that's either is out there brewing, it's going to happen, and I blame YouTube because they themselves instigated it. They tell people what you can say, what you cannot say, and that is what perpetrated Nasim to commit acts, not opinions, actions against YouTube itself. And if you want an example, watch what happens hereafter from YouTube. Will they change their policies? Will they change their code of conduct of how they treat people? If they don't, it will not end. This will be just the beginning. Just like all these tragedies across the United States, people being gunned down, shot, Vegas, Paddock, all the other people. These things are what Obama wanted to happen. Because the more it happens, the more his plan of saying we don't need guns, it just keeps getting thrown into your face more and more. You don't need a gun. You don't need a gun. Put it up. Give it up. Give it to the government. Turn it in. And that's their rationale. The communists are saying it over and over again. You don't need a gun. Obama said it. You don't need a gun. And you know, it's too obvious. It's ludicrous to sit here and think that what he's done as president of this country cannot ever be changed, because it looks like it can't be changed. He's the first president in history that manipulated the whole country, and now they're brainwashed. They only see him. I left a feedback on the Facebook page for Jimmy Fallon, and I told him, I said, how come you don't do this same kind of bashing against Barack Obama? Somebody left me a comment saying, Obama, he's great. In other words, we're brainwashed. We believe Obama was the greatest messiah we've ever had in this country. In other words, that's how twisted their minds are. They only see one side of the issue. They see Barack Obama as their messiah, just like Barbara Walters. And then they look at Donald Trump, who's trying to do what's right for this country, and they're laughing in his face. They're condemning him. Come on. What happened to rational, ideal? What happened to perceptions of right or wrong? It's gone. And beyond Barack Obama, all I'm going to say is this. Lucifer himself is the one doing these things. Satan himself has powers now that go beyond any other time in history. Barack Obama is his personal messenger. Obama is very likely the Antichrist who is being mentioned over and over again in the Bible, in Revelation. Who's the false prophet? Well, who's the highest ranking religious individual in the world today? And what did he say last week? There is no such thing as hell. It doesn't exist. That's what Pope Francis said. He said there is no such place. And that is a complete apostasy against the Bible. The Bible very clearly says there is a heaven and a hell. And if Pope Francis is telling the world there is no hell, that means he doesn't recognize God. He doesn't recognize who he is. And if that ain't the false prophet, what else do you need to know? This guy definitely is the false prophet that's mentioned also in the Bible. To end this video, I just want to say again, Nasim Aghdam is only one example of what I know is going to happen, because the more YouTube controls us as people and what we can say, the more they will destroy our individual freedom to express, to share, to say anything. Because it's all about Obama telling people what he will tolerate and what he will not tolerate for people to say. And that's the destruction of free thought. That's where that thing came from only a couple of years ago. It's called thought crime. You know, it was a joke then. It's a joke now. And isn't it odd? They won't talk about it anymore. Oh, well, you know, that was just an idea. It's like, no, it's reality. Because now you're practicing it. Now you're showing it right in front of our faces. Thought crime, folks, is people's individual freedom to think. It is not up to Obama. It is not up to the Illuminati. It is not up to the New World Order to tell people what you can and cannot think. And before you know it, they've already got artificial intelligence. Next thing is they're going to have a brain manipulator. It's going to scramble people's minds. I'm sure they're already using it on high-definition television. And for those who have immunity, the next stage is going to be them using brain scramblers right in your face. Well, you're not complying, so we're going to have to brain scan you and wipe clean any subversive viewpoints that you might have about us, and that's coming too. So I feel sorry for Nasim that she felt like she had to take her own life, because there could have been other opportunities for her to lash out or say something about YouTube by suing them. She could have done any number of things. And I again say that what she did was wrong to lash out at people, but she made a very clear point to the society we live in that what YouTube is doing to us as people is wrong, and it should not be tolerated. YouTube should be under the same guise as we are. Thank you.